I think a lot of people right now are very tunnel visioned on results. I've been getting a ton of messages recently, how to get into Cali, big companies, and I get it. I was asking those same questions not too long ago. And I love helping you guys. I respond to every single YouTube comment, every LinkedIn message, every single message in the Discord server. But there's this one guy on Discord. This guy messaged me because he really wanted a US job. He was just very, very dead set on making that money. And I hate to say it, but this person was just an embarrassment to the CS community. He was nowhere near the level of even passing an easy leak code interview, let alone going for a high growth startup. And there's nothing wrong with just starting out and having that delusional self-belief, but he gave off this idea that you just need to check the right boxes, maybe email a recruiter once a week, and a huge job offer will just land on your plate, which is just not how things work. Nothing great is going to be achieved just like that, and definitely not in the software engineering industry today. The process is really slow and messy and requires a lot more patience than people might expect. Looking back, at the end of the day, the growth that I saw was a lot more than just the job I held or the salary. I do go to a target school in Canada, the University of Waterloo. It does give me a lot more opportunities, but it doesn't mean that I struggled less or didn't work as hard to get to where I am right now. And after talking to people who think that you don't need previous internship experiences or side projects or know how to do leak code to land a good job, it made me really fucking angry that people don't want to go through struggle in order to achieve greatness. People get so complacent and they're afraid of going outside of their comfort zone. So today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 lowest points of my CS degree, my software engineering career, and hopefully it'll give you a more honest picture of the phases you might have to go through before things actually start taking off. And of course, my experience is different. Some people might have it easier or harder. I also have a free digital version of my career timeline and my progression in the last 6-7 years. So if you want to go check that out, make sure to click the link in the description. So the first story takes us back to before COVID. I was like 15 in grade 10 at the time. I've been coding for like a year and learned some very basic web development, built a really basic game in Python, and things were looking pretty good. I was cruising through most of my second CS course in grade 10. I was also very optimistic about applying to the University of Waterloo for CS because I heard that you can do 6 co-ops and make a ton of money. A lot of ambitious high school students just go fucking horny for that shit. And then the final project came for my class, and this was the first ever real developer experience I had. The projects I did before were very basic, very self-explanatory, and a lot of hand-holding with the teacher, but this time we had very little instructions, lots of ambiguity. It was more technically challenging, and I didn't really know how to debug and how to unblock myself. I forgot what it is I struggle on exactly, but it's probably some issues that GPT could just fix in like 10 seconds today. But me and my partner procrastinated a lot. We just watched movies over Discord and played Minecraft for like 3 weeks. And when the deadline was approaching, we just copied the entire project. We changed like 20% of the code and changed all the variable names and thought that it was enough, but we got caught. And not only did we get caught, but we were exposed to the whole class. So I lost all of my aura. It was very embarrassing, very devastating because we had just lost 30% of our grade. We did get the chance to redo it from scratch though for some partial credit. I can actually link it in the description if you guys want to check out the Minesweeper project. I also wrote the junior division of the CCC like a month after that and placed in like the bottom 30%. So I basically lost all dignity and hope for applying to a CS undergrad, and definitely not at a school like Waterloo. I took like a 6-month break from coding, and it was also during the COVID lockdown, so I pretty much did nothing at home. But then there was this tipping point because I realized that I would pretty much be a disappointment to my entire bloodline if I let this one setback from high school just ruin the rest of my career. So I did lots of math and coding problems to get better at doing contests, and I rewrote the programming contests that I had bombed in grade 10 and placed in the top 5%. I learned full stack development for like a year, and I made a generational comeback and got into Waterloo for CS. The second story was when I was looking for my first co-op. I definitely had an ego coming into this job search. I thought I had already done enough with the projects I built and my volunteer experiences, I guess. And I heard stories from students who were just 2 years older than me saying that they got like 8 interviews in their first year. So I thought that opportunities would just start pouring in. But when there were like 2 months left before the start of the summer co-op term, I had 0 interviews and only 30% of the students were employed. So obviously it was a low point in the job market. And I just kept thinking like, damn, this is how it all ends. Like I fucking picked the wrong major. And sometimes I'd overhear people talking about the interviews they got or maybe the offers, and I was still struggling to land my very first interview. Like I'd just be studying in the library with my boy And we were both jobless at the time, and people would just pull up and say shit like, "Oh, how many interviews you got? Oh, let me tell you about an interview I just did. Oh, don't worry, you guys will get there one day." And every single day was just trying not to get rage baited. I had to make the realization that my resume was complete dog shit, so I fixed it, but it was still pretty shitty. I should have used the LaTeX template, but I did eventually get 2 interviews out of like 300 applications, and one of them decided to take me. It wasn't a crazy job or anything, but it was definitely my first win. So the third lowest point was in my second year. My mental health was at an all-time low. It started with school courses because classes got a lot busier, and I was surrounded by students who were not only a lot smarter than me and had better study habits, but also cared a lot about grades and took everything so seriously. So there was a lot of pressure for me to keep up, but I also got caught in a lot of thought loops and comparing myself to others about internships mainly, and I got pretty anxious on a daily basis. I was secretly using weed. I just felt like a loser because I was just coping every single day, and I slowly started to admit that maybe I'm not as smart or as special as I originally thought when I first got into Waterloo. I literally almost failed my stats final. I started missing assignments here and there and just started slacking. And eventually I just let go of aiming for good grades and trying to fit in with what everyone else was trying so hard for. It's not a decision that I'm necessarily proud of. I think that the attitude and work ethic is something I still lack from time to time, but it was the first time I started to make YouTube videos, and specifically my style of really honest and raw types of videos about struggle, which a lot of you seem to enjoy. So the main focus from that point started to shift from co-op and school onto just my overall well-being, my relationships, and the hobbies that I have. School and co-op were always things that I need to stay on top of for my career, but I had to stop letting it define me as a person. And lastly, I wanted to talk about these 2 interview processes, which I remembered to be the most demoralizing experiences. The first one was with TikTok. So me and my boy, we both got an interview during our third year, and we were just so hyped because we haven't yet went to the US for co-op. We had the chance to go there together. We both made it to the final rounds. Mine went pretty mid. He also got some really tricky behavioral questions, but I thought that we still had a chance because they emailed us saying that they would get back to us within 2 weeks, probably for team matching or something. Then 2 weeks went by. Then 3 weeks went by. And I was just not able to let go of refreshing my emails and just ruminating on how that interview went for me because it was the biggest opportunity that I got. And for some reason, I just kept making myself think that this is the only outcome that's going to define me because it was a big tech company and it was in California, which I guess is what all Waterloo students care about. And it just sucks to think that I was so close yet so far. I had to take my interview prep to the next level. And unfortunately, at the time, I did have to settle for less. And the second experience was actually why I made this video. Pretty much the same idea, but this time I can't say the name of the company because it kind of is a still ongoing process. I passed all of their interviews. They moved me to the team matching phase and said that I would have multiple hiring managers who would want to meet me. And then I got ghosted after that, and they must have like filled headcount or something. And the worst part is that the recruiter actually left the company, so I actually don't know what to do anymore. Getting rejected is tough, but this time it felt really unfair and out of my control, and it started to mess with my morale. I literally struggled to get out of bed for 2 days. This interview result really hit different. It kept making me feel like there was such a big gap between me and my peers. If I didn't earn their respect through getting a prestigious name on my resume and going to the US, I literally almost took a gap term to try and rediscover my life purpose or whatever. But this might have been the best outcome for me because it built so much character and it made me think about potential business opportunities I could pursue if I did end up committing to a gap term. It pushed me to keep interviewing, and eventually I did land a job in the same city as my girlfriend. So it all worked out. But the point is, even if I was actually unemployed, even if I moved to a different city for work, I learned how to adapt to such an unexpected and unfortunate outcome. And it was also one of the biggest steps that I took to detach my self-worth from just the name of a company. The more I make YouTube videos, the more I'm working on building a community, and the more time I spend at a high growth startup, I'm realizing that a big tech offer in the US isn't something that I truly want and something that will actually fulfill me. These interviewing experiences with TikTok and this other unnamed big tech company made me realize that I'm absolutely in love with the thought of fitting into this cracked CS student image. I do like the idea of it and the validation and respect that comes with it. And I hope to continue sharing my thoughts and experiences as I continue my journey, despite what they all say about AI and bad job market. I think that in 2026, pursuing a CS degree and trying to get into the tech field might actually be one of the best things you can do because there's just so much personal growth that goes into it. And yes, you eventually will be able to make a lot of money. Once again, check out the links below if you want to read more or join the Discord server. I'll see you guys very soon.